Hello, everybody, friends of Collins Hope. It's Alyssa Magrum and all of the Collins Hope people coming at you again on our daily live broadcast. Just a reminder of why we started doing these. I feel like so long ago, at the beginning of, I guess it was the middle of March is when we started doing daily broadcasts because of the COVID pandemic that was going on. We knew that we were going to see an increase risk of drowning because of increased access to water for our kids that were out of school and at home, parents and caregivers who were now working from home, trying to supervise kids while daily behaviors were changed, which we really feared that we were going to see more drownings occurring sooner in the year than we typically do. And so we started changing the way that we do things at Collins Hope. Typically this time of year, we would be out in the community, we would be in schools, we would be at community health fairs, we would be at pools, talking about water safety as the temperatures warm up. We're here in Texas and it's over 100 degrees here. And so we quickly pivoted to turn all of our activities into virtual activities. And this is one of the things that we started doing was these daily broadcasts. Some of them were targeted at children, doing the lessons from our Water Safety with Colin and Friends. That's the people behind me from that curriculum doing those lessons. And then also topics that were relevant for parents and caregivers around water safety and drowning prevention. And then also being able to respond to things that happen real time. If we see something occurring in water safety and drowning prevention that we need to address, we are able to get on and talk about it. And so we're here again today. Today, we're going to be talking about what you may have heard around town, on Facebook, on social media, secondary drowning, dry drowning, delayed drowning, all these terms that I know in working in drowning prevention for over a decade now seem to make the rounds each year. They come up on Facebook. I get tagged a million times on different things. And so we are going to highlight a partnership that we have, which is incredible. And I'm going to introduce the partners in that partnership momentarily, but we're going to then also give you some really great education that will hopefully solve some myths or I guess debunk some myths that are out there around some of those terms. So that all being said, I'm going to welcome my two guests today. So I'm going to welcome Melissa Ludwig, VP Associate Creative Director at FCB Health, New York. And I'm going to invite her and welcome her. And then Dr. Justin Semstra, Medical Director of StarGuard and Executive Director of Lifeguards Without Borders. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad, guys.
Okay.
Thank you for being here today. And the partnership that we're talking about is an amazing website, which we're going to send you to later, notoutofthewater.com. And I'm going to invite Melissa, you to kind of share from the very beginning how this partnership even began and how you found Collins Hope, and then we'll bring Justin into it as well.
You got
so
it.
Thank you both for being here. Yeah.
Thanks for having us. It's so great.
I love your depth, your pool depth thing behind you also.
I know, it's amazing, right? I'm in my son's room right now, and this is his little height ruler. He's probably only about, 27 inches so far. He's about 8 months old, but it seems so fitting.
Perfect.
Okay, so from the very beginning, my partner Erica and I work for a company called FCB Health New York. And it's a full-service advertising agency that specializes in healthcare communications for HCP-facing, patient-facing, and consumers. And one of the amazing reasons why I like working for FCB Health so much is because our creative managers task us with coming up with what they call what-if projects. And that challenge is basically, how can we use our creativity for good? Do we have any ideas that could potentially change a perspective, change a behavior, and thinking really big, how can it change the world? And that's how Not Out of the Water was born. Going back to around 2017, my partner Erica was the one that first discovered the term dry drowning. She had seen it in a news broadcast, and she brought it to my attention and asked me what I thought about it. And I also had never heard of the term dry drowning before. So we did some investigating. And like you said, Alyssa, there are all these terms being thrown out there. Mm-hmm. Dry drowning, delayed drowning, secondary drowning, near drowning, and probably 8 more that I'm forgetting right now, that were all false terms to actually just describe drowning, which that opened our eyes to an even bigger problem, is that most people do not know how to define drowning. They think that it always means death by submersion. And I will fully admit that I was one of those people, as was Erica. We did not fully understand that drowning was a process. So that led us to do even more research. And we found that there was really no centralized place for parents and caregivers, for lay people like us, that would wrap up the information we needed in a neat little package that would just give us everything we needed to know. So that's how Not Out of the Water was born. And the name worked twofold, right? The name Not Out of the Water served as a reaction we would get from people when we would tell them that drowning could potentially continue out of the water. Not out of the water. No, like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And also it reflects that the drowning prevention and water safety community still has a lot of work to do, right? We're not out of the woods. We're not out of the weeds. We're not out of the water. So now we had an idea and we paired it with a name. But since we were still newcomers to this space, we definitely needed to find a partner who is entrenched in the water safety community to help us along the way, and to help us fast, because we wanted to get the message out for Water Safety Month in 2018. So we cast the net out, we did a search, we got in touch with a few different organizations, and I have to say, Alyssa, you have called yourself small and scrappy, and that's for a reason, because you answered so quickly, you were super enthusiastic about it, and you were fearless. And that was one of the most important things with this project, right? We wanted to put forth some posters and some images that took a bit of bravery, right? Because we wanted to stand out. Coming from a marketing background, Erica and I knew that, we needed to be provocative, right? To get that message out, to get people to stop and say, okay, wait a second, like, I want to read into this and I want to learn more. So thank you for that. And thanks, Collins Hope, for that. And also thanks for introducing us to Justin, who has truly been integral to us bulletproofing all of the information on our website and making sure it is 100% factual, right? Because that's what we were lacking out there. That said, for Water Safety Month 2018, we launched our website, and we also launched a beautiful set of posters along with the website that has gained so much attention. It took us from one partner, you guys over at Collins Hope, to 30 partners now.
Yep.
And they're all helping us cross-promote our initiatives through social media. So our website, it's very simply designed, right? That was the goal. We wanted a place that was easy for people to go, share, get everything they needed fast, right? We don't want to lose their attention. So when you log in, you're looking at basically a pool. And when you dive into that information, it's one long scroll down. And that takes you to the true definition of drowning, dispelling the myths, misconceptions, and misnomers that have been going around, the signs and symptoms you can look out for, what to do if you see these signs and symptoms, some news articles if you want to dig into further information, and also wrapping it up with your Collins Hope water safety quiz. At the very, very bottom of the page, we also have downloadable flyers and posters that walk you through all of that info that are easy to print, hang up at your facility, share with an organization that you know. Also very proud of that as well. And what else? Oh, we are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. And one thing we love to do is to fix the false information that's out there. So one thing that people have been doing quite frequently is that if they see an article that's using some of these misnomers, or it has something that's a bit off, they tag us, or they tag Justin. And our team is there to answer questions and set the record straight.
Which is amazing to have that resource, because it is something that every time I see an article that still has the misinformation, I now also have a tool, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with this, because there's so many things that you said that I want to respond to. And one of them is I want to go back to when you reached out, and I did respond very, very quickly. And I responded very quickly because we are small but scrappy. I usually say small but mighty, but I'm loving the small but scrappy, because I think that's true. And I did respond because I knew that it was something that I personally and Collins Hope that we struggled to respond when someone reached out to us and asked a question around those terms that we were trying to dispel. And when I introduced Justin, we'll talk about, like, I had been using him as a resource to figure out how to deal with when people reached out and asked us questions, and we didn't really have a place to send them. We didn't really have a good visually beautiful, because that website is, I was on there this morning looking through it again, and it's so clean. And again, one of the things that we're going to talk about is the beauty of this partnership. And that is where what FCB Health brought to the table was the design and the marketing and that expertise of taking this confusing concept, allowing us to make sure the content was correct and right, and then you guys putting your beautiful creative talents to work and putting out a product that is incredibly informative, clean, and just a great resource. And so I know that I know I've seen through the last 2 years, the website being nominated for awards and different things like that. So congratulations, because even in the marketing space, it's being acknowledged. And I know for sure in the drowning prevention space, it is a tool that is not only being used by Collins Hope and the 30 partners that are part of this, but I know Justin talks about it at conferences. I know I put it into slide decks that I do when I speak in places. And so the impact that you guys have made with this campaign is incredibly huge. So thank you for even starting and for reaching out. And I was very proud that you reached out to us, and that I remember sitting in the beta phase of the website and writing some of the content or adjusting it or sending Justin messages. And so just the process of it all, it's like talking about it. It's a really beautiful partnership and a collaboration. And I know from Collins Hope, we are small, and it's partnerships and collaborations that allow us to reach more and save more lives. So with that, I'm going to bring in Dr. Justin Semsrott, who I am trying to remember the first time I ever heard you speak. I'm sure it was at a National Drowning Prevention Alliance conference. I think it was in Florida. And you're an amazing presenter and an amazingly well-spoken, to the point of you can speak up here or you can speak down here and everywhere in between about some of this information around drowning that's incredibly confusing. So thank you for making the time in your day to be here. And I'm gonna turn it over to you a little bit to talk about why this has been sort of a frustrating topic or something. But before I do that, I'm realizing I want to share a really quick story because it's around this. And we've been working on this topic for years. And last week I was in Colorado, and I was at a social distance gathering, and from six or more feet away, I heard a conversation about of a mom who was a pregnant mom who was talking about, all I heard was he was face down in the water. And so of course I move 6 feet. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to insert myself in this conversation. And what are you talking about? And people that were there were joking. We were wondering how long it was going to take for Alyssa to become involved in this conversation. But the story was basically a family in Colorado, and it's cold there. It's not like Texas right now. And it's a family that has an irrigation ditch in their yard, and they have a 5-year-old and a toddler. And through all the things that we know that happened, just miscommunication, the toddler made it outside with the 5-year-old and ended up face down in the irrigation ditch. The 5-year-old screamed for help. Thankfully, they got to the toddler and he was okay. But the conversation that was happening, this had happened the day before I ended up in the same space with this mom. And I was able to send her to the website, and I got my business card out and I wrote notoutofthewater.com on it, and I handed it to her. And then I sat there and educated this entire party of people around this exact topic. And this was last week. So now, and I checked on the child for the next 3 days as this was going on. And I was so grateful for the resource, and also, and back to Justin, for the knowledge that I've gained from you in this topic. So now I am really going to turn it over to you and stop talking and say, the floor is yours. Please share whatever it is that you want to share around this topic so that people can understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. And I've just been so excited by this partnership as well. because it is so important to expand the water safety message outside of the immediate water safety community. And I just absolutely love Melissa and Erica's motivation and excitement for spreading this within the marketing community. And now it's being seen at the award ceremonies, at the conferences that are outside of our usual niche and our usual industry. And I just think that that's how we grow, by engaging people in marketing, people in engineering, people in accounting. There's ways to use those areas of expertise to prevent drowning. And for those that have known me for a while, this so much comes down to the definition of drowning, and it's something that I've been screaming from the hilltops for more than a decade now. And I often get asked, like, why is the definition so important? And I think that everything flows from that definition. The analogy that I like to draw is concussions. And many of us grow up as kids being told you just got your bell rung and being put back into the game, or get put back on the bicycle, and that was it. And now we know that that has long-term physical and mental health consequences. And last year, the CDC updated their definition, and a concussion is called a mild traumatic brain injury. And if you tell a parent your kid just got their bell rung, they're going to respond very differently than if you say, don't worry, they just had a mild traumatic brain injury, we're going to put them back in the next set of downs. Then they're going to look at you like you're crazy. And now we are better informed and can make better decisions. And in the drowning community, it comes down to that idea of, we've always thought of drowning equals death, but you can drown and survive. And many people drown and survive with no complications. Some drown and survive with some degree of complications, usually mild, moderate, or severe brain injuries. But how do we classify those people that come out of the water, still have some symptoms, and don't quite die? And the elevator pitch that I often like to use is, we've all been sitting around the table at some point, and if you're in Texas, you have some sweet tea go down the wrong pipe. If you're in New York, it might be kombucha that goes down the wrong pipe, and we cough and sputter because we had some liquid go down our airways. But all of that irritation is just at the top, and it usually passes within a couple of moments. So if somebody comes out of the water and all they have is the amount of respiratory difficulty that you would expect at the dinner table, then they're going to be fine. They're not going to develop symptoms later. There's never been a documented case of somebody being 100% back to normal asymptomatic who then later develops symptoms. But if their respiratory difficulty is more than what you would expect at the dinner table, then that liquid from the pool or the ocean or the lake probably got down into the lower part of the lungs, and most likely they're going to be fine. But they should seek care and be brought to a hospital, even though there's a good chance of survival, because they may need supplemental oxygen. And the two ways that I see that this causes a lot of problems and confusion is, one, in that scenario I described, where somebody comes out of the water and has respiratory difficulty, or they're not getting enough oxygen to the brain, so they're acting strangely, and it gets passed off as, oh, don't worry, you're just tired because we're playing outside, or don't worry, it's just you just swallowed some pool water. That's kind of the equivalent of just calling it just getting your bell rung. But if we were to tell parents they just had a mild non-fatal drowning, you should get them to the doctor. It's probably going to be fine. Just like that concussion is probably going to be fine, but we don't want to risk that small percentage that aren't. Let's get them to the doctor and get them evaluated. The second scenario where I see problems is with so much misinformation, that there was the case in Texas where the child developed symptoms several days after swimming, and it was inappropriately labeled as dry and secondary drowning, when the ultimate cause of his death was an infection around the heart. And sometimes doctors even can misdiagnose other things as dry and secondary drowning, instead of focusing on other possible causes. And so we've worked a lot within the healthcare community to try and educate doctors and nurses, but even for parents as well. If your child has worrisome symptoms, take them to the doctor, absolutely. But if it occurred more than a couple hours after being in the pool, it's probably caused by something else. And so we need to focus on those other things and that can cause it, because just like everybody else, doctors are subject to bias. And if the person comes in and says, I think it's secondary drowning, and the doctor has secondary drowning on the brain and they don't have up-to-date information, then they may miss other things while inappropriately focused on that.
So Justin, what is that time window? I get asked this all the time. This happened yesterday. This happened this morning. What do you what do you advise talking to a parent and caregiver right now? Like if they feel like their child had some, took in some water, how do you say to them? What do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they have any symptoms beyond what you would expect at the dinner table, or they're not acting right, take them to the doctor immediately. And if you're concerned, you watch for those symptoms for the first 8 hours. So 8 hours provides the largest margin of error. In all of the published studies, then those that develop symptoms do so within the first 4 to 6 hours, and the vast majority within the first 2 to 3 hours. And so we in the medical community have arbitrarily said, well, let's just increase that to 8 hours to cast a wide net and make sure we don't miss anybody. And so, as Matt in the chat pointed out, in an urban EMS setting, absolutely. Anybody with symptoms beyond the dinner table when they come out of the water should go to the hospital for additional evaluation. Most likely they're going to be fine. Most likely we're going to send them home, which is what we want, but we don't want to miss that small percentage that need oxygen for the night.
And if we think about parents who may go to the pool or to the beach and they have an incident and they come home, and so some of the symptoms are drowsiness. And so when you put a child down for a nap or something, I like the analogy of the concussion. I'm a soccer player and I've had multiple concussions, now mild brain injuries throughout my life. And I'm also a mountain biker, so I understand that analogy. But that's in practical reality, when you come home from the water, how do you behave as a parent in that 8 hour window?
Yeah, nobody knows your child better than you.
Right.
And it's so nuanced, but I would just say, if your mommy sense or your daddy sense is tingling and something doesn't seem right, you're right. If it doesn't seem right, you are right. Something is not right, and we are happy to have them in the hospital. We are happy to see them in the ER. We're happy to see them in the pediatric clinics and the urgent cares, and keep an eye and check oxygen levels and make sure that that doesn't sound like there's any water in their lungs, and just trust that parent intuition that if something's not right, you're right, it's not right.
Mm-hmm. And I thank you for that. And I kind of knew that you were going to say that. And that's and that is, as a parent, I think we're all on this, parents, I believe, and that is the parent sense, and listen to it. And I always tell parents, like, what is the harm in going and getting checked out, right? So because this is going to come up, I know that I'm going to get tagged on that same blog post that was written 3 years ago. I probably will get tagged in it today as it makes the rounds. But I so appreciate this conversation. I so appreciate the partnership with both of you and your entities. I know that NotOutOfTheWater.com is a huge resource for Collins Hope to lean on and to be able to share. And Justin, I know I send out your article and I lean on you in a lot of different ways through as a professional resource. So thank you for that. I know that the small and scrappy Collins Hope can only do so much in this space, and it's the value of the partnerships that we that we have with you guys that allow us to do more. So I know we're about to be closing in on our time, so I want to give you guys both just the chance to say any last minute things around this or whatever you want to say. And then I want to also challenge everyone watching to go to the website and then also to take our water safety quiz. Yes, Melissa, calling on you.
Okay. One more thing I did want to share. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a new mother. I had my son back in August. And I thought about both of you very recently when I was giving my son a bath. Put him in the tub. He's splashing around. He's having a fantastic time. And in that moment, I said, where's my phone? I would love to take a picture or a video of him. And I stopped because my phone was not with me. My phone was in his bedroom down the hall. And had it not been for our relationship and for you guys keeping the dangers and how quick drowning can happen on top of my mind, I probably would have said, oh, I'll just go grab it really quickly. And I'm getting chills just saying that because
you're bringing tears to my eyes because the work that we do is about changing behaviors, and it's about creating a safer culture of water safety, a better culture of water safety. And just hearing you say that, I mean, in Texas, we've had 7 bathtub drownings this year already. So knowing that this partnership has also helped change your behaviors around water, I mean, it really, like, the tears are real. I mean, this is evidence that the work that we're doing is incredibly important and is working. And in prevention, sometimes you don't see that. You don't get to hear those stories.
100%.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps like as you're telling the story too. I was like, and I just got struck by something so interesting that I hadn't considered before, and that is what you do, Melissa, on the marketing side of things, and what Alyssa and the rest of us do on the drowning prevention side of things. We have the Herculean task of changing adult behavior. And it's not something that happens overnight. It has to be repetitive messages. It has to be consistent and clear and concise. And that same message has to strike the same person multiple times in order to affect behavior change. And that really is the difficult task. And then for my closing comment, I actually have kind of a selfish question that I want to put Melissa on the spot for, so you may not have the answer to it. But I'm curious, since the rollout, about how many impressions and from what parts of the world, because I know that we've worked to translate the website into not just Spanish and Portuguese, but Greek and I think Italian as well. We had another language in there. So I'm curious how far and how wide the message has traveled.
You know, if I would have known this question earlier, I would have gone on Google data collector this morning. But from the last time I checked, I mean, it has traveled the entire globe. I mean, there may be a few little white spots where we have not hit, but it's been super impressive. I know that from our launch in 2018, there was an upwards of 82 million possible impressions of just eyeballs.
Wow.
And by saying impressions, it's like, just seeing it come up on, in a small news article, a post on Facebook, something like this. It's exponential as far in terms of where it can keep going.
That's amazing. That's so much more than I would have expected.
82 million. That's huge.
It's out there. It's out there to be found.
Yeah.
It's done really
well. Well, I know we're at our time here, but I want to share one really quick thing, and it's tagging off of what you're saying about changing behaviors. And the character behind me, this one, is based on our program director, Jessica Brown's son, Alexander, and her son is 2.5, and he has literally been born into a culture of water safety because of the nature of her work. And I realized a few months ago that he is a longitudinal study that we have in our midst. He is comfortable wearing a life jacket all day long while we're at the lake. We have video of him flying a kite wearing the life jacket, video of him eating a cupcake wearing the life jacket. He can recite the whole hand rules, which are the 5 rules of our water safety curriculum. He knows all the hand motions. He knows what a life jacket is, how to wear it. He is literally a living, breathing longitudinal study that this work, that we can create these behaviors from the very beginnings, 8 months starting now, yes, and then adults to that we can, that the changing of behaviors, because what people don't know, they don't know, and we're in the work of figuring out how to get through those old behaviors and changing them to be safer around water, and then taking the tiniest and creating the behaviors. And I feel like the three of us here, I'm going to say, be proud of the work that you're doing in this space. I know I'm proud of it, even when I see drowning still occurring, and that can be a beatdown some days, but knowing that this is working. And Melissa, hearing your bathtub story is further motivation to do this work more strategically through partnerships like these, more collaboratively, and just tirelessly. So thank you guys. We'll close it out, and I would love everyone to give a best day ever. That's what Colin used to say. He used to say today was the best day ever. So with that, everyone watching, thank you. And Matt and Yesenia and Wes, thanks for your comments. And we'll just say, have a great day and have the best day ever.
Best day ever.
Thanks, guys. Have the best day ever.